Howdy, boys and girls, and welcome. It is week 5 of the college football season, and it is week 5 of the Carla and Crappy Show. That Carla with her assistants down there because Lord knows I need it. Hi, Carla.
Hi. Yeah, after our counting errors last week.
It's going to happen. As I get older, this becomes more difficult. So what are you going to do? Carla. I'm having. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. I am having an exceptional sports week.
Yes, you are.
I am excited because Ohio State starts conference play. I'm excited because the game that I'm going to talk about at the end of the show, which is another college football game. I'm excited because the Indians have clinched the AL Central. There's all kinds of things going on. What are you excited about?
I don't know if I'm excited about anything. I'm kind of sad.
What are you saying?
It's the end of the Les Miles era.
Oh well. Yeah. Okay.
We can't make fun of his clock mismanagement and eating grass and like all that stuff that we used to like. That was the old reliable. Like if you needed something to talk about,
yes.
You could always talk about Les Miles.
Yes, and there was actually I saw this on just happened to see this on ESPN probably on the SEC network like the day before he got fired. But it's a commercial spot for the Louisiana State University. And it's a young woman kind of showing stuff on campus. And one of the things is she's sitting down on the turf in the stadium, and Les Miles is sitting next to her and offers her a piece of grass. He takes a bite and then offers her another piece of grass. She's like, no, thanks. So it's kind of an interesting juxtaposition that I would see that like the day before he got fired. But yeah, I mean, in terms of personalities. He is one of the biggest in college football. In terms of recruiting quarterbacks who can actually play the game, Wes never figured that one out, which I don't understand. I absolutely
no, especially and there's some good players in Louisiana high schools.
And you're right next door to Texas.
Yep.
There are a few good football players in Texas. I've been led to understand. That was a baffling thing. I mean, and I'm certainly not an LSU fan, but I think you got to give the guy benefit of the doubt for a while because he's won you a national championship, and that's good for a few years of doing whatever he wants to do. But I guess at some point, he's always turning in top 20 recruiting classes. He has monster teams on paper, and really it's that position, and it's absolutely baffling to me.
It was funny when we were watching the fourth quarter of that game, and I made mention here at the house when we were watching that game. I said, "Gosh, does the loser of this game lose its head coach?" It just kind of felt that way throughout the whole game. Like these were two coaches that almost kind of outcoached their own team, because they were trying to save their jobs. Gus Malzahn. That was a ridiculous losing streak that Auburn was on. And you had to think that, especially with the way that game ended on that last play, where LSU won and then lost, and had they upheld that and LSU won that game, it would not have stunned me had Gus Malzahn been the coach that was fired on Sunday. That streak to lose in that fashion at home, I think that would have been the last straw. I didn't necessarily see Les getting fired. I think that I guess I kind of was expecting it maybe at the end of the season. But emotional moment. I get it, but gosh, let's find another job quickly because we need to keep talking about you. He'll end up on Saban's staff at Alabama because that's what he does, right? He hires all the.
Let's see. Is there a way we can make Mike hate Alabama more? Oh, hey, that maybe that would be it. Maybe that would be the one. No, I do. I assume he will bounce back. If Les
Miles needs to be in the MAC. That just dawned on me. Les Miles needs to be the coach of a MAC team because what would be better than Les Miles coaching MACtion?
This is an interesting parallel because Frank Solich was fired. What some Nebraska fans still claim he was fired hastily from there. Returns to his home state. Comes to my alma mater and turns football at Ohio University around. So maybe it might be possible that I'm going to mention Miami University.
Toledo, higher or less miles?
Oh no! I see now. Miami's having an awful season. They are
Okay.
0-4 so far, and maybe it's like a reverse cradle of coaches thing. Because so many classic college football coaches came through Miami. Maybe Les could go there and retire. I don't know.
Interesting.
It's just a thought. We do have some actual college football games to talk about. Good matchups. There's interesting stuff, and we're going to go a little bit off script, which is going to put some pressure on the Carla and Crappy Show production team. But we have a game Friday night that we're going to start with. This is a number 7 Stanford at number 10 Washington. Night game on the West Coast in that crazy freaking stadium that just goes bananas. Washington is favored, understandably, by 3. Carla, what do you think?
Which means it's a draw because they're at home. So, so the home team usually gets a 3-point because you're playing at home. So, okay, so this is an evenly matched game on paper. Yeah, and you look through all the stats and you say, yeah, this actually is a pretty evenly matched game. What's interesting here is that it's week 5, and we do this every year. I get it. Like every year we get into this point of the season and we say, yeah, but we don't know anything about that team. Last week it was Wisconsin, and we'll talk about that in a bit. But this week, Badger's still annoying. But we're going to talk Huskies first. So Washington is the team this week that we don't know anything about, because Huskies ain't played nobody yet. Other than last week, they played at Arizona. And needed overtime to beat them, which is kind of a bit of a red flag because that Arizona team is a little bit of a hot mess. Okay, so that's a little bit of a red flag. But they're putting up these massive offensive numbers. Quarterback Jake Browning has 14 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. He's 3rd in the nation in passing efficiency, and they're also a really fast team. Their primary running back, Lavon Coleman, had 181 yards just against Arizona last week in a game that they struggled to win, which is interesting. Stanford last week, we knew that was going to be a tough game against UCLA playing in the Rose Bowl. It proved that. Stanford really showed something there at the end to be able to close and win that game. The way that the end of that game was managed, we were watching that here, the way that just that whole last drive was just managed so well, so much confidence in that offense, so much confidence in the defense. It really showed me what Stanford is capable of. But here's the thing that worries me about Stanford in this game. They're really, really great against the run on defense, not so great against the pass. And that doesn't line up well with what Washington's going to try to do because they've got a pretty prolific passing attack. Stanford's also missing a key wide receiver who was hurt, Francis Owusu hurt, but Christian McCaffrey actually leads the team in receiving. So I'm not sure how much that's going to really play a factor other than like when you do the decoy situation where you know, that kind of stuff. That might play a factor. But the biggest thing for me in this game, and as I was looking at it, thinking about it before when you sent the games we were going to talk about, my gut said Stanford because we know more about Stanford. They're more battle tested. They're ready to go up. They've played in these types of games a lot. They're ready to go up and make a statement. But here's the thing, that after I started digging in, I really started thinking about it. Who's the head coach at Washington right now? Chris Peterson.
Yeah, okay.
From Boise. Who has a knack for winning games he's not supposed to win. Need I go back to the Statue of Liberty, right? This is a perfect Chris Peterson game. He's got the personnel now to kind of pull off what he pulled off at Boise. He's going to be in a night game on a Friday night at home in a game that they're probably not supposed to win because they haven't played anybody yet. I think somehow Washington pulls this off. And I still think Stanford's the better team, but I think Chris Peterson is just too good in these types of situations that something's going to happen and Washington wins this. It's going to be wildly entertaining. Cancel your Friday night plans. Get in front of a TV and watch this game. Preferably with beverages because it's going to be one heck of a drinking game, I think. But, you know, Washington, I think. Okay.
Let me ask you this. We're aware of Chris Peterson's record with Boise State and the games that he won while he was leading that program. does he lose? Does he lose a step? Does he lose a bit of his advantage now that he's coaching what is viewed as a major program versus, Boise State is probably viewed as a major program now. But does that translate to the Pac-12?
I think it's more of a matter of personnel. And when he went to Washington, that wasn't his personnel. That wasn't a team that he had recruited. It didn't line up with his offense. He's been there long enough now that he's got his pieces in place. If he's going to start pulling those kinds of games off, it's going to start happening now. I wouldn't have this game last year. No, I think Stanford wins. But this year, just the way that they're playing right now, you look at the way that they came back from, against Arizona in a tough environment. I don't know. It just feels like this is a Washington team that's ready to make this move, and that Peterson is ready to kind of put himself back into the national conversation because everybody's kind of forgotten about him over the last couple of years because Washington hasn't done much.
Right.
And now they're here at 4-0. The team is ready. The student fan base is ready. Like, this is the biggest game in Husky Stadium in a really, really, really long time. Play this game at Stanford, and I think you're giving Stanford the edge here. But I think that playing at home Friday night in an environment that is just ready to burst at the seams. I think it happens.
Okay. I'm still going to ride the tree. And this is tough because you don't really know what Washington has statistically. They look scary. I mean, they look like a top 10 team. My notes: top 10 scoring offense, top 15 in scoring defense. But the thing that I look at is just what again, and I talked about this a little bit when we talked about the UCLA game in Stanford a week ago. Just the kind of offense that Stanford can do. Stanford, this is a team that Jim Tressel would love. You hold on to the ball and you don't make mistakes and you keep you run the clock, and it's not necessarily a thing of beauty offensively, but I think. That is the kind of thing when you're looking at an offense that looks to be as good as Washington's is, even if we're talking about something that doesn't necessarily match up well with Stanford's defense. Doesn't matter if Stanford is pounding McCaffrey every other play and that's and holding the ball. This will be a fun game. And hopefully we're going to be prepping for our tailgate party, and I will be able to watch. But I'm going to pick Stanford, and we're going to continue the ride with the tree.
Well, and up until a couple hours ago, I was leaning Stanford too. In fact, I told a friend I was in a meeting today. I said I'm going to pick Stanford this weekend, and he seemed somewhat surprised when I said that. And then after I dug through and I'm looking at it, and I was like, this just kind of lines up that I think Washington could pull this off.
Okay.
So yes, it'll be fun.
They could very easily. They very easily could. We go next to Saturday. When number 8 Wisconsin visits number 4 Michigan. Michigan is favored by 10.5 points at home, and this is after Wisconsin absolutely waxed Michigan State a week ago. Given that background, Carla, what do you think?
First of all, Bucky, I'm sorry. Last week I'm not
sorry. You're a jerk, Bucky. I don't care.
Last week I flat out said last week that we didn't know which Wisconsin team was going to show up, and that I predicted that Michigan State was in the mix to be considered a division contender in the Big Ten. Not so much after the way that game was played out. That was an incredibly dominant performance by Wisconsin in that game. And here's the key to that statement is that they stopped a team that the week previous looked unstoppable on offense, right? That Michigan State team against a pretty good Notre Dame defense put up numbers on the road, right? And so this is an offense that was rolling on all cylinders and played Bucky and couldn't do anything, which is an interesting parallel heading into this weekend against Michigan, which is, the headlines everywhere has been Michigan is unstoppable on offense. And my question is, yeah, but who have you played? And you look, and it's Hawaii, UCF, Colorado, and Penn State. They haven't played anybody either. And yes, I'm including my nits in that statement because, I mean, let's be honest. Penn State looked dreadful in that. Even more as as growing up a Penn State fan, it kills me to say this, but Michigan scored 6 of its 7 touchdowns last week on the ground, 326 yards rushing for the Wolverines, and that pains me to say that against the old linebacker U. It's just like that's not supposed to happen. But okay,
old linebacker U, who's all 3 starting linebackers were not playing last weekend, which is that just a tough thing.
Yeah, it pains me to say that against the Penn State defense that used to be so stout. But okay, so Michigan's got an offense, but they haven't played any defense, and this Wisconsin team is capable of stopping offenses. And interestingly enough, if you dig back through the stats against that game last week, Wisconsin had more penalties, more penalty yards. They gave up more passing yards and gave up more first downs, and yet still won the game as impressively as they did. The key there was that they forced turnovers. And what have we seen from Michigan in the last couple of years? You fluster them once, and down the spiral they fall. I'm not convinced on this Michigan team yet because they haven't played anybody. Until Michigan beats somebody that has a legitimate defense, again, pains me to say that, but until they beat somebody that has a legitimate defense, I don't believe them yet. I don't believe the narrative. The offense is good. Stop somebody and win a game against a defense that can actually do something. Interestingly enough, the Wisconsin defense has only allowed 80 yards per game rushing on the season so far. So you've got strength on strength there. I think and originally I was going to say, that your Buckeyes need Michigan to win this game for playoff hopes down the road. But I looked at the schedule and it really doesn't matter which team wins this game. But Wisconsin actually, at this point in the season, because you play them in 2 weeks, would actually be beneficial for your Buckeyes if Wisconsin wins this game now, because then you've got 2 really, really good wins heading into because let's be real, the Big Ten this year is down, especially with Michigan State being, completely decimated last week by Wisconsin. Now you got to think that their 3 main contenders are Michigan, Wisconsin, and Ohio State. And they need one of those teams to be undefeated when they play. I think Wisconsin wins this game. Everything lines up for me. I just feel like this is, even though it's at the Big House on a Saturday afternoon, I don't know. I'm gonna ride I'm on Wisconsin until somebody can prove to me that they can run against this Wisconsin defense.
Okay. One thing I would point out, and I will say this until I die. I think the notion of home field advantage in Ann Arbor is overrated vastly. That's that building. It's not even with all those people, it's not especially noisy. I don't think it's not like State College. It's not like Camp Randall, which from what I understand, I have not been to Camp Randall personally. It's not like Ohio Stadium. I think that's a myth. People are impressed by the Big House because it's big, but it's not necessarily a super tough place to play because of anything that happens there. Having said that, I will start by thanking Sparty, the most annoying team in the Big Ten. Wisconsin, the most annoying team in the Big Ten, for upping my anxiety about the rest of the college football season. That's the home field advantage going to Camp Randall Stadium is a pain in the butt, and that and now that game in 2 weeks looks like it's going to be a tough one.
Yeah.
Looking at this, Wisconsin, we felt like we didn't know Wisconsin a week ago. Now I think we do. Michigan certainly looks impressive, but the best team they played is Colorado, maybe. And Colorado was actually able to score on them. Colorado made that game interesting, which gives you pause about all the things you've heard about Michigan having one of the best defenses in the conference or best defenses in the country, et cetera, et cetera. and actually statistically, Michigan's defense, Wisconsin's defenses, similar yards per game, similar points per games, both top 20, top 15 in the country. Offenses, again, this is hard. Wisconsin, against better competition, is averaging 20 points fewer per game than Michigan is. And I agree with what you say. Seeing, having paid a lot of attention to Michigan, they get in tough games, and if they get rattled, and again, the guy looks good, but you're talking about a first-year starting quarterback.
Yep.
You're talking about guys who widely varying levels of experience, and certainly you look at my team and you say, well, maybe youth isn't everything. Doesn't have to be a really big problem, but there is that. I am still. I think the line is ridiculous. I think 10.5 points in this game is insane. I'm still going to pick Michigan. But I think, boy, a field goal, maybe a touchdown. That's a gut feeling on this. And you can tell I'm hesitating because Wisconsin's looked really, really good. Their game last week was really impressive. So I could be wrong about this one, but I'm going to pick Michigan.
And this is a brutal stretch for Wisconsin too. I just pulled up their schedule. I mean, this is absolutely ridiculous. So last week they were at Michigan State. This week they're at Michigan. Next week they're home against your Bucks. At Iowa, home against Nebraska.
Yeah.
I mean, that's.
If Wisconsin ends up in the Big Ten title game, they will have earned it. There's no question.
Mm-hmm.
We will be talking more about them in a couple of weeks, I am sure.
Yes.
Our final game. This is how we wrap up Saturday night. Number 3 Louisville at number 5 Clemson. Louisville's favored by 2. I saw this and I thought about Notre Dame visiting Clemson last year. And that was the Hurricane game, but it was that was a fun thing, and that was sort of when Clemson put to rest whatever doubts, or seemed to put to rest whatever doubts we might have had about what they're going to do. Can they do the same this weekend? What do you think?
Again, this is okay. So this is the 3rd game in a row that we're talking about. Yeah, but show what have you done for me lately, right? And you can say the same thing about Clemson. I'm a broken record, but their first 4 opponents: Auburn, Troy, South Carolina State, and Georgia Tech. Now, the game against Auburn, okay, that's Auburn just went out.
It looks better than it did.
It does. But we had that question kind of at the beginning. That was a week 1 game, and you were watching that score as it was coming along, and it was like, like Clemson can't get past Auburn. And like at the beginning of the year, we didn't have a lot of high expectations for Auburn. We probably still don't, but it's just one of those like, can't beat Auburn. Like that doesn't bode well for your ACC hopes, it was just one of those kind of weird things. Yet here they are in week 5 with the number 3 ranked defense in total defense in the nation, and number 5 nationally in scoring defense. But again, show me an offense that you've stopped, right? Like it's just one of those, like, I mean, yes, they're very statistically high ranked, and you say, oh, high ranked defense against Louisville's, video game offense. This should be a good game. And I'm just like, yeah, but they haven't really stopped anybody. I mean, let's be honest. Auburn's offense, not prolific by any stretch of the imagination. And okay, Georgia Tech runs the crazy triple option. Okay, so that was a decent win last week, but that's the only time all year you prepare for the triple option. Like, it's not apples to apples by any stretch. So it's like, what do we think of this Clemson team? I mean, yes, I had them as a potential sleeper to get into the playoff at the end of the year. And Deshaun Watson should be back in the Heisman mix. He's having a good year. He's already got almost 1,000 yards in passing in 4 weeks on the season. Okay, that's a good start. But is this Clemson team ready? They're playing at home, which is a good thing here. But this Louisville team, I said this a couple weeks ago when we talked about them before, I'm going to keep picking Louisville until somebody can prove to me they can stop them.
There you go.
This offense is ridiculous. I mean, Lamar Jackson. Okay, so Deshaun Watson has nearly 1,000 yards passing. Lamar Jackson has over 1,300 yards passing. Oh yeah, and by the way, 526 yards on the ground for a total of 25 touchdowns.
It's insane. It's insane.
It's insane. Yeah, and so it's like, okay, so can the Clemson defense stop Lamar Jackson? I don't know. I mean, yes, they might be able to stop the pass, but then he's got the legs. He can run. And the other thing that makes me think Louisville is going to win this is you go back and you look at the stats against Florida State, because that's really the best comparable situation here. Right. Louisville had 5 sacks against Florida State, so they've got the defense that can go against a pocket passer. Now Deshaun has some escapability. That's been one of his big things, but I don't know if you've got a defense that's proven itself already against a top 10 opponent. Playing another top 10 opponent, I think the only thing that might get them rattled is playing on the road. This is their first big road test of the year. But if they can overcome the early goings in Death Valley, I'm going to go Louisville.
I am too. And looking at the Florida State game is a really telling thing. And you mentioned the defense, and that was, I mean, obviously you look at Louisville and you want to start with Lamar Jackson, and that's certainly understandable. But Louisville's defense against an offense that had, at that point been fairly prolific, was, I mean, it's not, they're not world beaters, but it was good enough. It was good enough. And is there a hang up for Lamar Jackson in Louisville's offense? I'm not sure. Statistically, Clemson has a better defense than Florida State does at this point by a pretty wide margin. If you're looking at scoring defense, but again, this is the kind of thing where it's like you look at the situation, and it's there's no one has slowed these guys down yet, and compare that with a Clemson team that has struggled with Auburn, that struggled with Troy. This is something. I think I like your mindset where you say, Louisville's, until someone stops Louisville, and maybe this is the last chance for anyone to stop Louisville, because I don't think they have a currently ranked team on the schedule until you get into mid-November when they have to play Houston. This is their last big chance, and I'm sure Mr. Petrino's making them aware of this. This is the last big chance you have to make an impression, because you ain't got nobody on the schedule for another month and a half. So. I think the Cardinals are going to go in there and go into Death Valley and come out with a win, which is, if I had not watched Louisville and Louisville's offense with my own eyes for a couple of these games, I'm not sure I would be saying that. But after it, I am a believer. There is no question. I put my notes over here. And there's one other game. There's one other thing I have to mention. There is. My Ohio University Bobcats play their number one rival, the hated Miami Red Hawks. They're the Red Hawks now. That was a name change from when I was in school. OU is a 3-point favorite on the road. I predict that the two-headed quarterback monster of Greg Windham, who is OU's leading passer and rusher on the season, spelled by a pro-style youngster, Quentin Maxwell, they will wax. They're going to wax the Miami Hurricanes. They're going to beat the Miami Redskins, Red Hawks, who are 0-4 in the season. Although 0-4 with the pretty respectable. They've lost to UC, they've lost to Western Kentucky, lost at Iowa. So it's not a terrible thing. But I'm predicting a victory for my Bobcats in their top rivalry game of the season.
I would predict Ohio to win too, because I watched them against Tennessee.
Oh yeah,
and they hung it against Tennessee. So I wouldn't pick the same thing. Same philosophy with Louisville.
Okay.
Right.
Until someone beats. Well, Texas State.
They lost the game.
Texas State beat them, so there was that. But since then they've been good. Since then, so
there you go.
That's fine.
Okay, so I got one for you.
Okay.
New game. Be 5:00 Eastern kick. Oklahoma at TCU.
Ooh.
Oklahoma's a 3.5-point favorite on the road
at TCU.
Mm-hmm.
I'm picking TCU. I think Oklahoma folds.
Interesting. I when we were going through that, and I was like, okay, I'm going to pick a random game. That one was the first one that caught my eye. I was like, ooh, that's a good game. So under the radar game for the afternoon. But gosh, I don't know. I mean, that's an Oklahoma team that desperately needs a win. The Big 12 is reeling. Oklahoma's not ranked. TCU is. So Horned Frogs.
Yeah, Oklahoma's season's done. They're done. Even if by some miracle they win the conference, they're not going anywhere. With 2 losses before you even get into the conference schedule. TCU is ranked. TCU is not, perhaps not the team it was a couple of years ago, when they did have a decent shot at getting into the Final Four. I think that one's.
Enjoy your trip to the Fiesta Bowl, right? I mean, really, that's what Oklahoma's playing for at this point. For whatever bowl game they're slotted if they win the Big 12.
Which is not a bad consolation prize.
No, it's not a bad consolation prize.
Guys, it's going to be another fun one. Let's see. Go Bucks. Go Bobcats. Go Horny Toads. Anybody we're missing?
Go Tribe.
Go Tribe. Yes, go Tribe. And guys, Carla, thank you once again for helping us out.
Thanks as always.
Thank you guys for watching. We will talk to you again next week.